Okay, let's unpack this. We are diving deep today into a guide specifically focused on helping newborns and toddlers. And let's be honest, helping you, their parent, navigate the world of sleep.
And our source material, it's this really practical guide put together by an experienced midwife, so it's packed with, real-world insights.
Right. And our mission here is really to cut right through all the noise and just pull out the most important, the most actionable stuff from this guide. Because, as this source makes super clear right from the start, sleep for these little ones.
Yeah.
It isn't just about getting some rest.
Exactly. This guide really emphasizes how fundamentally vital sleep is for their whole being, really. Physical growth, emotional regulation, mental development.
Yeah, it mentions things like brain development, immune system strength, mood, even how they start interacting socially.
Totally. And the guide highlights something pretty stark. Babies need roughly double the amount of sleep an adult does. Double.
Wow. And what's fascinating, too, is the brief look the source takes at the science behind it. It touches on how sleep actively helps develop the central nervous system, general body growth.
Yeah. And it points out those two main types of sleep. There's active sleep, that's REM, which is crucial for brain development.
Okay.
And then there's deep sleep, or non-REM. That's where a lot of that key physical growth happens. And importantly, these cycles, they're short for babies, like 45 to 60 minutes, rotating through.
And the guide makes this really interesting point, that under normal healthy conditions, sleep for these very young babies and toddlers is actually, well, largely involuntary.
Right. Their biology is basically designed to just make it happen.
Which seems counterintuitive when you think about how much effort goes into getting them to sleep sometimes. But it becomes key when you think about why establishing habits is so important, doesn't it?
Exactly. While their bodies sort of handle the process of sleeping, it's you who helps them extend those cycles, link them together over time. The guide does mention, of course, that sleep needs change as they get older. That's natural.
Sure.
But what's really paramount, according to this guide, is learning to spot your child's specific, unique signs that they're getting tired.
Yes. And this guide gives us a great checklist for that. Things you might easily miss, right? Like hiccuping. Sneezing, even.
Yeah, hiccuping, sneezing, rapid blinking, eye rubbing, jerky movements can be a sign too. And then, of course, that inevitable cry, which often means they're actually overtired.
Okay. So catching those earlier cues is really half the battle.
Definitely.
So, okay, you've spotted the cues. How do you actually do this? This is the core how-to from the guide, I guess.
Well, the absolute cornerstone, the word that comes up again and again, is consistency. Following a similar pattern day and night. It's less about rigid schedules and more about predictability.
Predictability, right.
Yeah.
Creating that sequence they can learn. The guide suggests things like a feed, maybe a bath, then something calming, singing or storytelling.
Exactly, that predictable wind down. Then there's the environment, and this can vary. Some babies do better with noise, others need it dark and silent.
And white noise can help bridge that.
It can be a really powerful tool, yeah. And a cool room temperature is pretty consistently advised.
Okay, so environment set. What about settling them? The guide reinforces placing them on their back, always.
Always on their back. And here's where we link back to those short sleep cycles. The guide strongly suggests putting your baby into their cot or bassinet awake.
Awake? That sounds challenging, but important. Why awake?
Well, the guide explains it's because they naturally wake up briefly or transition between those 45, 60-minute cycles. They need to learn to fall back asleep where they are in their cot, not suddenly find themselves needing your arms again.
Ah, that makes sense. So they don't rely solely on being held to connect sleep cycles. What about things like swaddling?
Swaddling gets a thumbs up, especially for younger babies under maybe 8, 12 weeks. It helps them feel secure, reduces that startle reflex.
And padding or rocking?
Those can help, sure. But the guide's emphasis is really on gradually transitioning away from them needing arms or motion to fall asleep initially, and just staying nearby, especially for the little ones, offering that quiet reassurance that can make a big difference.
The guide also touches briefly on challenges like separation anxiety, that moment they cry when you leave the room. Tough one.
It is tough. The advice is pragmatic, though. It focuses on building trust. Start small, maybe stay visible nearby, then slowly stretch the timer out of sight.
And crucially, it says, never sneak away. Always say goodbye, reassure them you'll be back, build that security.
Exactly. That trust is vital.
Okay, and finally, and this feels just as crucial, the guide offers some really practical tips for parents for you listening, trying to get your own rest.
Yes, this is so important for your own well-being, your ability to function and parent. The guide suggests taking turns with a partner for night wake-ups, like properly off-duty when it's not your turn.
Right. And that classic advice, nap when the baby naps. Seriously, the chores can wait.
Absolutely. And accept help. If family or friends offer, take it. Let them watch the baby while you sleep or just have a break.
The guide even mentions considering having the baby in a separate nursery, if possible, just to let the non-attending parent get some solid, uninterrupted sleep.
Yeah, that can be a lifesaver for some families. And one really smart tip, cluster feeding, or doing a really good feed right before you plan to go to bed.
The dream feed idea. To try and buy yourself a longer stretch.
Exactly. Might just get you a few more precious, unbroken hours.
Okay, so wrapping up this deep dive into the midwife's guide. Sleep is just fundamental, isn't it? Not just for the child's development, but for the whole family's well-being.
Absolutely. And consistency, routine, these are presented as your most powerful tools, supporting their natural sleep processes, helping them link those cycles.
And the final thought this source leaves us with, kind of circling back to that idea of sleep being involuntary. It's quite profound. If the act of sleeping is biological, involuntary for these little ones, why is establishing a consistent habit, a routine, through external cues from you so incredibly important?
What does that emphasis on environment, on routine, on consistency, what does it really tell us about that powerful interplay, between their innate biology and the nurturing environment we create right from the very beginning?